Throughout history, cultures around the world have told tales of terrifying and awe-inspiring creatures, monsters that lurk in the shadows, guard sacred places, or challenge the bravest of heroes. From the fire-breathing dragons of Europe to the shape-shifting yokai of Japan, these mythical beasts embody the fears, beliefs, and imaginations of their people. This series will explore some of the most legendary monsters of mythology, uncovering their origins, powers, and the stories that keep them alive to this day. Welcome to Myth and Lores, a journey into the dark and divine. Without further ado, let's jump into another lore. The Gorgons and Medusa have long been subjects of dark and eerie mythological tales. In Greek mythology, Gorgons are typically depicted as terrifying creatures with snakes for hair whose gaze could turn people to stone. While many myths surround them, Medusa, the most famous of the three Gorgon sisters, holds the darkest and most tragic place in mythology. The Gorgons, the sisters and their curse. There are three Gorgon sisters in Greek mythology, all daughters of the ancient sea gods Phorcys and Ceto. Their names are Cthino, the eldest, known for her incredible strength and cruelty. Uriel, the middle sister's voice, was described as a terrifying scream. She also had an immortal nature. Medusa, the youngest and most famous of the sisters. Medusa's story is the most tragic and complex. The Gorgons were fearsome creatures, typically depicted with their hair made of living, writhing snakes. Their eyes were said to be able to turn anyone who gazed upon them directly into stone. They were often portrayed as monstrous women with sharp fangs, tusks, and scales covering their bodies. Their role in mythology is one of terror, and they were often feared by gods and mortals alike. Medusa, the mortal tragedy. Medusa's story is one of transformation, punishment, and vengeance. While her sisters were immortal, Medusa was once a beautiful mortal woman. She was renowned for her stunning beauty, and in some versions of the myth, she was a priestess of Athena who swore an oath of chastity. However, Medusa's beauty would become both her blessing and her curse. The violation of Medusa. The most famous version of Medusa's myth involves the god Poseidon. According to the myth, Poseidon, overcome by desire, assaulted Medusa in Athena's temple. Some versions suggest that Medusa was not only violated but also defiled in the sacred space, which enraged the goddess Athena. Athena, rather than punishing Poseidon, turned her wrath upon Medusa. In an act of cruel punishment, she transformed a beautiful young woman into a Gorgon. Medusa's hair became a mass of writhing, venomous snakes, and her once lovely face became so hideous that anyone looking at her would immediately be turned to stone. This transformation was not just physical, but also symbolic. Medusa was punished for something that was mainly out of her control, and in her monstrous form, she became both a victim and a terror. The curse of Medusa's gaze. After her transformation, Medusa was exiled to a remote island far from the world of mortals. The curse of her gaze was both her power and her torment. She could no longer interact with others without turning them into stone. Over time, Medusa had become a symbol of rage and loneliness, her existence a prison of her own making. However, despite her monstrous nature, Medusa is also a tragic figure. Some versions of the myth suggest, in her solitude, she became a victim of isolation and her own tragic fate. Her transformation from a beautiful woman to a hideous creature symbolizes how the gods could turn mortal beauty into something dangerous and destructive. Perseus and the slaying of Medusa. Medusa's story reaches its tragic climax when the hero Perseus is sent on a seemingly impossible quest to kill her. Perseus, who is aided by gods such as Athena and Hermes, must navigate the dangers of the Gorgons' lair and find a way to kill Medusa without looking at her directly. Athena gives Perseus a reflective bronze shield, which allows him to view Medusa's reflection and avoid turning to stone. He sneaks up on her while she sleeps and decapitates her, holding her head aloft. Medusa's severed head still retains its power, and Perseus uses it in later adventures, including rescuing Andromeda from a sea monster. The dark legacy of Medusa's head. After Medusa's death, her head continued to have terrifying powers. Her head was said to retain the ability to turn anyone to stone, and various figures in mythology often used it for protection or as a weapon. For instance, Athena took Medusa's head and placed it on her shield, the Aegis, a symbol of divine power and protection. The head of Medusa thus became a symbol of both terror and power, embodying both the destructive potential of vengeance and the protective force of the gods. Medusa's head also became a motif in later art and culture, symbolizing danger, transformation, punishment, and the consequences of divine wrath. Her image is often used to ward off evil, turning her curse into a form of protection for others. The myth of Medusa, especially in her transformation, has been interpreted in many ways. Some view Medusa as a symbol of female rage, a representation of how women who defy social norms or who suffer from trauma can be demonized and punished. Medusa's transformation from beauty into monstrosity reflects the idea that the gods and society can take something pure and turn it into something dangerous when they seek to control or punish. Others see Medusa as a symbol of power of the marginalized or silenced, her terrifying gaze representing a way for the oppressed to fight back against their abusers. In modern interpretations, she is sometimes seen as a feminist icon, a symbol of reclaiming power after suffering abuse. The Gorgon myth evolves and changes with each telling. Some cultures view the Gorgons not as solely negative beings, but as representations of ancient, primal forces. In many cases, the myth of the Gorgons and Medusa has been adopted and reinterpreted over time, transforming from a warning about the dangers of beauty and vengeance into a more complex tale about victimhood, revenge, and the consequences of divine injustice. In art and literature, Medusa is frequently depicted as a monster and a tragic figure, a woman who was transformed into a beast due to forces beyond her control. She has become a figure who symbolizes both the destructive power of anger and the tragic consequences of being punished for something that was not her fault. In conclusion, the dark lore and myths surrounding the Gorgons, and particularly Medusa, revolve around themes of transformation, punishment, power, and victimization. Medusa's myth has resonated throughout the ages, continuing to evolve and inspire a range of interpretations, from horror to feminist reclaiming of power. That concludes this lore. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next lore. Bye.